If you grew up in the 80s or 90s, you know the pain of waiting all week, sometimes forever, for that next Saturday morning fix. But what about when that next episode never came? When the story just stopped? Today we're diving into 10 unforgettable cliffhangers that still make fans shake their fists at the TV decades later. Stick around to the end because the final one is so unresolved, it's practically a crime. And hey, if this trip down memory lane brings back your own childhood heartbreak, tap that super thanks button to help me keep digging into these animated mysteries. And for those of you who like collecting these classics, there's a link down in the description where you can grab the DVDs and relive every frustrating moment. Alright, let's start with the cartoon that turned Spidey fans into lifelong conspiracy theorists. Spider-Man, the animated series, 1994 to 1998.
I am sorry that I brought you here.
I'm not. I'm fighting alongside one of the greatest heroes of all time.
By the mid-1990s, Spider-Man, the animated series, had become appointment viewing for every comic book-loving kid. This wasn't just a kiddie cartoon, it was Marvel storytelling in full soap opera mode. Multi-episode arcs, dramatic betrayals, even crossovers with the X-Men. This show went bigger than almost any Saturday morning series before it. For 5 seasons, Peter Parker juggled the usual double life: college exams, Daily Bugle deadlines, and the never-ending rogues gallery of villains. We watched him wrestle with the Kingpin's schemes, the heartbreak of Felicia Hardy's double identity as the Black Cat, and a Venom saga that felt like it had leapt straight from the comic pages. Every week the stakes got higher. Then came the finale, Farewell Spider-Man. If you were a kid in 1998, you remember that title card. After battling across alternate realities, Peter finally faces a villainous version of himself, the so-called Spider Carnage, and wins.
Fight it with all your heart and soul, your real heart and soul.
Won't work! Too painful! I'm sorry for all the bad things I did!
At last, it seems our hero will get a quiet moment to breathe. But then, Madam Web appears. The cosmic guardian who's been nudging Peter towards his destiny all season steps in with a final, shocking request. She will take him across dimensions to search for the real Mary Jane Watson. Because the woman he thought was his girlfriend was actually a clone created from living water molecules. Yes, really, it was the 90s. The episode ends as Madam Web leads Peter into the unknown, promising that together they will find the true Mary Jane. And then, nothing. No next week, no season 6, no wrap-up movie. The show was abruptly canceled. Fans were stunned. In the pre-social media era, rumors flew. Was there a secret episode? Would Marvel release a direct-to-video movie? Magazine letters columns filled with frantic questions. Early web forums, back when you had to wait for dial-up to screech alive, buzzed with theories about Peter's quest and whether Mary Jane was lost forever. Behind the scenes, series creator John Semper had since revealed that the next season was already planned. We were supposed to follow Peter and Madam Web across the multiverse, eventually finding the real Mary Jane and giving the couple the reunion they deserved.
Mary Jane! It's me, Peter!
Sorry, but I was wandering around. I heard some noise.
Oh, I'm so happy to have found you at last!
Budget cuts and network shakeups killed the project before a single script was recorded. For many fans, this wasn't just a cliffhanger. It was an emotional gut punch. Mary Jane, arguably the beating heart of Peter Parker's story, was left missing in action. Even today, decades later, you can find forum threads with titles like, "Where is MJ?" still debating how the writers might have resolved it. And just when you think Spider-Man's ending couldn't be topped for sheer unresolved heartbreak, another team of Marvel heroes would raise the stakes even higher and leave us hanging for years. Because if you thought Peter Parker's fate was frustrating, wait until you hear what happened to Professor Xavier and his team of mutants. X-Men, the animated series, 1992 to 1997. If Spider-Man, the animated series, broke your heart, the X-Men were ready to stomp on the pieces. From the very first previously on X-Men voiceover, you knew this show meant business. It treated kids like grown-ups, serving up complex politics and discrimination stories. Over 5 seasons, we watched the team face everything from the Sentinel program to intergalactic wars. Jean Grey died and returned, Wolverine wrestled with his own past, and the Mutant Registration Act split the world in two. This wasn't just Saturday morning fluff. It was serialized drama that had us sprinting to the TV before the theme song's electric guitar even kicked in. Then came the finale, Graduation Day. The story begins with a vicious attack on mutant kind that leaves Professor Charles Xavier gravely injured. The X-Men scramble to protect him as political tensions boil over. Magneto, Charles's lifetime frenemy, steps into a surprisingly tender role, showing genuine compassion and refusing to abandon his old friend.
My legions await my command, pledging body and soul to me. With a single word, I can remake the world. I cannot leave.
By the end, the Shi'ar Empire arrives to take Xavier across the stars for treatment that Earth can't provide. The X-Men stand on the mansion lawn, watching their mentor disappear into the cosmos. There's a quiet shot of the team, Cyclops, Jean, Wolverine, silhouetted against the night sky. And then, credits. Do you remember watching this episode and getting angry like I did? No reunion, no update, no assurance that Charles survives. For young fans, it was like watching your superhero parents drive away and never call. Letters poured into Fox Kids. In the early days of the internet, AOL message boards lit up with theories. Would Magneto become team leader? Would the Shi'ar heal Xavier? What about the unresolved romantic tangle between Jean and Logan? Or the hints about Gambit's mysterious past? Behind the scenes, the production team had plans for a 6th season that would have tied up these threads. But budget cuts and network shakeups struck again. The story froze in mid-sentence. For almost 3 decades, fans held on to that final image. Magneto's head bowed in unexpected grief. Only in 2024 did X-Men 97 finally attempt to continue the saga. But for those of us who waited through the long silence of the late 90s and early 2000s, the damage was already done. And just when you think no show could be crueler with its audience, a series from Canada would pioneer computer animation, and an even more agonizing pause. Because the next cliffhanger didn't just leave you hanging for a week or a year. It left you wondering if you'd ever see your hero again, literally lost in cyberspace. Reboot, 1994 to 2001.
No one knows for sure, but I intend to find out. Reboot!
Before Pixar's Toy Story made 3D animation a household word, a small Canadian studio called Mainframe Entertainment was already breaking ground with Reboot. Premiering in 1994, it dropped kids into the world inside a computer, the city of Mainframe, where heroic guardian Bob protected the system from viruses like Megabyte and Hexadecimal. This show was a revelation. Its digital landscapes looked unlike anything else on TV. Characters talked about games dropping like bombs into the system, and every episode felt like a peek into the mysterious future of cyberspace. By the end of Season 2, Bob had evolved from rookie guardian to seasoned hero. But in the finale, High Code, things took a sharp turn. In a desperate battle with the villainous Megabyte, Bob is sucked through a portal into the untamed web, a chaotic digital ocean where even guardians fear to venture. His friends Enzo and Dot can only watch in horror as Bob vanishes. And then, nothing. Weeks turned into months. Months turned into years. 2 full years passed before new episodes arrived. For kids in the mid-90s, that was an eternity, especially when the last image you saw was your hero literally swallowed by the void. When Reboot finally returned, the story had jumped forward in time. Little Enzo was now grown into a hardened warrior, calling himself Matrix. Bob's absence had reshaped the world. But the writers never fully explained those missing years.
Megabyte's back, uglier than before, with some new tricks from the web.
The web?
Another level of cyberspace, my friend.
Instead of a neat rescue, viewers were dropped into a darker, more mature storyline that demanded you catch up or get lost. Some fans loved the bold storytelling, others just felt robbed. Playground chatter turned into early internet speculation. Was Bob alive? Did the showrunners change their minds? The truth was simple. Production delays and funding issues had forced the gap. But for kids who had been left staring at a static "to be continued" card, that explanation came far too late. And if you think that's rough, imagine watching your favorite villains literally vanish into another dimension and then never hearing from them again. Because that's exactly what happened to two of the most notorious cartoon bad guys of the late 80s. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 1987. Shredder and Krang's banishment. For years, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles ruled Saturday mornings. From action figures to lunchboxes to that unforgettable theme song, the Turtles were everywhere. And a big part of the fun was their endless war of wits with Shredder and his blustering alien ally, Krang. By the early 90s, after hundreds of episodes, the show's producers decided to shake things up. In a late-season story arc, Shredder and Krang are finally defeated and exiled to Dimension X, the chaotic parallel universe they once called home. It felt like the perfect setup for an epic comeback. Surely the villains would regroup, escape, and return with an even bigger plan. Except they didn't.
Far from it. Tonight I dine on turtle soup.
As the series moved into its later seasons, the tone changed dramatically. The animation style grew darker, new villains appeared, and Shredder and Krang simply never returned. No revenge plot, no last showdown, just a brief mention or two that they were still trapped. For kids who had spent years watching the Turtles trade insults and punches with these iconic foes, the sudden silence was jarring. We kept tuning in, expecting the portal to crack open and the familiar pink brain of Krang to wiggle back onto our screens. Instead, we got unfamiliar antagonists and a creeping realization. Our favorite bad guys had been quietly written out. Even decades later, Turtles fans debate whether the writers ever planned a triumphant return or simply ran out of steam. Behind the scenes, shifting networks and changing toy line priorities probably played a bigger role than any grand narrative plan. But for young viewers, none of that mattered. We were left holding our pizza slices waiting for a rematch that never came. And just when you think Saturday morning TV couldn't get any more ruthless, the next cliffhanger takes us from sewer pipes to the battlefield of the 80s, where a single movie left an entire fan base asking questions that were never truly answered. Because when we talk about unfinished cartoon wars, nothing compares to the shock G.I. Joe fans felt when their leader of evil literally turned into a snake. G.I. Joe, the movie, 1987.
Fight for freedom wherever there's trouble over land and sea and air. G.I. Joe is there.
Long before the live-action blockbusters, G.I. Joe was the king of animated military action. After 2 successful miniseries, fans were hyped for a full animated movie that would tie the story together and raise the stakes. Instead, they got one of the most infamous non-endings of the decade. The film reveals the ancient race of Cobra La and shows Cobra Commander, already a fan-favorite villain, transformed into a literal snake creature.
Oh, wow, bizarre!
We watch his human form slowly dissolve until he's slithering on the ground, hissing in despair. And just when it seems we'll see what this horrifying transformation means for Cobra's future, the credits roll. When the regular TV series resumed, fans waited for the fallout. Would Cobra Commander regain his form? Would Cobra La rise again? Instead, the story mostly moved on. Occasional episodes mention Cobra Commander's altered state, but the movie's bold new mythology was quietly abandoned. Behind the scenes, Hasbro and the producers were reacting to unexpected backlash, both from parents uncomfortable with the dark tone and from children upset by the death of Duke.
Promise me you'll try to get your act together. Be a credit to your country.
I'll make you proud. You'll see.
Yo.
Which was hastily redubbed so he survived. The sudden course correction left the cliffhanger unresolved. For Joe fans, it felt like the enemy had escaped, not on screen, but in the writer's room. And speaking of toy-driven franchises, another Hasbro powerhouse would break hearts on an even grander scale. Because when a hero as beloved as Optimus Prime dies and then comes back, you'd think the story would feel complete. But Transformers had other plans. Transformers, post-movie Season 3, 1986 to 1987. The Transformers animated movie shocked an entire generation by killing Optimus Prime. In theaters, parents wrote letters. By the time Season 3 of the TV series aired, Optimus was resurrected in The Return of Optimus Prime. Relief swept playgrounds everywhere. But while Optimus returned, many other story threads never found closure. The mysterious Quintessons, ancient creators of the Transformers, were teased as puppet masters of Cybertron's history. Their motives hinted at a grand cosmic plan. Yet before these mysteries could unfold, the series was cancelled. Fans speculated endlessly. Were the Quintessons meant to be the ultimate villains? Would we ever learn the true origins of the Transformers race? Instead, later toy lines and spin-off shows rebooted the mythology entirely, leaving those questions hanging like unfinished code.
Is Optimus alive?
No, but my father has his body in his lab.
Ultra Magnus, we have to retrieve Optimus's body. Put him where he can rest in peace.
For kids who invested in every character and collected every figure, it felt like someone had yanked the batteries out of their imagination mid-story. And if you think watching your favorite robots getting their mythology yanked away was bad, the next show's unfinished finale became a legend. One that fans still debate to this day. Because these next heroes weren't just left on a cliff, they were left in an entire other world. Dungeons & Dragons, 1983 to 1985. Few cartoons captured the early 80s fantasy craze like Dungeons & Dragons. 6 ordinary kids board a carnival ride and are whisked into a magical realm filled with dragons, wizards, and the enigmatic Dungeon Master. Each episode promised that maybe, just maybe, this would be the adventure that got them home. For 3 seasons, we followed their quests, cheered their victories, and shared their hope of returning to Earth. Then, with no warning, the show ended. No farewell episode, no grand conclusion. Just the kids still wandering the realm. Only years later did fans discover that a script for the intended finale, Requiem, had actually been written. It would have revealed the truth behind the Dungeon Master and Venger, and finally offered the kids a path home. But it was never produced.
As you have given those trapped in this realm their freedom, I can do no less for you. You are free to return to your world now if you wish. Or you can stay here in the realm.
For decades, fans passed photocopies of the script at conventions. In the early days of the internet, it became a cult document, proof of the ending that might have been. That silent gap turned what could have been a happy ending into one of the most famous cliffhangers in cartoon history. And if you thought fantasy worlds could be cruel, the next show proved that even ghost hunters can leave you haunted by unanswered questions. Because when Lovecraftian horror creeps into a kid's cartoon, you expect a final showdown, not a fade to black. The Real Ghostbusters, 1986 to 1991. Spinning out of the hit 1984 movie, The Real Ghostbusters brought paranormal comedy to Saturday mornings. But amid the slime and wisecracks, some episodes hinted at much darker forces. Episodes like The Collect Call of Cthulhu and Ragnarok and Roll introduced ancient, world-changing entities that made even Gozer look tame. Fans waited for the series to pay off these mythic threats with a climactic battle. Instead, the show simply wrapped up without revisiting these cosmic storylines. No showdown, no Ragnarok, just the quiet end of a series that once teased an apocalypse. For kids who sensed something bigger lurking beneath the jokes, it was maddening. The final credits rolled and the bigger battle never came. And speaking of creatures of the night, the next series gave us stone warriors whose saga still feels incomplete. Because if any show deserved a true final act, it was the one about living gargoyles watching over New York. Gargoyles, 1994 to 1997. Gargoyles combined superhero action with Shakespearean tragedy. The second season finale, Hunter's Moon, revealed stunning secrets about Demona and left the Gargoyle clan at a crossroads. Fans braced for an ambitious third season to explore these revelations. Instead, Disney handed the show to a new production team, creating The Goliath Chronicles, a season many consider non-canon. Storylines were simplified, and the rich threads left by creator Greg Wiseman were never resolved. To this day, devoted fans debate what might have been. Demona's ultimate fate, the future of Elisa and Goliath, the larger world of magical clans.
Why are you here? Are you in league with these hunters?
I'm their prey, you fool! We all are!
No more lies, Demona. Take her!
Comic continuations have tried to fill the gap, but for viewers who lived through the original run, the cliffhanger still looms like a castle on a stormy night. And finally, we arrive in Gotham City, where a hero defined by mystery left us with questions that still spark arguments decades later. Because if any animated universe thrived on unanswered questions, it was Batman's. Batman, the animated series, The New Batman Adventures, 1992 to 1999. From its noir Art Deco style to its psychological depth, Batman the animated series redefined superhero cartoons. Yet even this landmark show left major storylines open. Take Mad Love, the definitive Harley Quinn origin. It ends with Harley back in Arkham, vowing to win Joker's love again. A promise that chills more than comforts. Or consider Two-Face, whose fate after several key episodes is never fully addressed.
Harleen Quinzel was a doctor here at Arkham until the Joker twisted her mind.
Ha! You're just jealous because you don't have a fella who's as loving and loyal to you as my puddin' is to me.
The series simply moves on, leaving him somewhere in Gotham's shadows. These were intentional gaps, perhaps, but for devoted fans they were maddening. The later series, The New Batman Adventures and Justice League, offered glimpses of closure, but the original show never tied every thread. In true Batman fashion, mystery itself became the final twist. And there you have it, 10 of the most frustrating cliffhangers from the cartoons that raised an entire generation. From Peter Parker chasing Mary Jane through the multiverse, to the Dungeons & Dragons kids forever trapped in another realm, these shows proved that sometimes the biggest shock isn't who wins or loses, it's when the story simply stops. Which one haunted you the most? Was it the unmade Requiem finale? The missing Mary Jane? Or something we didn't cover? Share your memories and theories in the comments. I read every one. If you enjoyed reliving these Saturday morning heartbreaks, tap that super thanks button. Your support helps me keep digging up these hidden chapters of our childhood. And if you're ready to re-experience the frustration firsthand, check the DVD links in the description to own these series and watch every to-be-continued moment all over again. Until next time, keep the cereal ready, keep the nostalgia alive, and be prepared for the possibility that some of our favorite stories may never truly end. We'll see you next time.